we're gonna make homemade Honey Mama's chocolate. This is our favorite kind of chocolate with no sugar, all natural ingredients, but it's really expensive to buy it at the grocery store. It's probably like $4 to $5 for a tiny little square bar. So we're gonna make our own at home. We're just gonna use raw honey, cacao powder, nuts, vanilla, a couple other things. And this is super easy and quick to throw together, and you can just keep it in the freezer and pull it out as needed. So it's definitely great when those chocolate cravings hit. First off, you are going to need some roasted nuts. You're going to make sure they're unsalted. You can use either almonds or peanuts, really any kind of nuts that you like, but today I am using almonds. You're going to want to pulverize these in a food processor, but I didn't have one, so I'm actually using a coffee grinder on the coarse setting. You just want to make sure the nuts are chopped up really fine. You could even do this with a knife. Just make sure they're really fine, and that kind of texture is going to be perfect for our chocolate bars. Next up, we are going to melt the coconut oil, peanut butter, and vanilla and honey on a medium heat. We're just going to melt this all together until it's nice and smooth. You can actually use peanut butter or almond butter for this. Today I'm using a natural peanut butter. The thing I love most about this recipe is we are using all natural ingredients, high quality. We're not using any refined sugar, and all the nuts and chocolate has a lot of magnesium, vitamin E, iron, a lot of great stuff, so you can feel really good about eating this chocolate bar. Now we're going to combine the dry ingredients. We've got our pulverized almonds. We're going to add the cacao powder and a pinch of salt, and we're just going to mix this together till it's combined. Then we're going to pour over the peanut butter mixture that we melted on the stove, and we're going to mix all of this together until it forms a nice dough that's kind of fudgy and sticky, but it still holds together. So this is kind of the texture we're going for. You want it to be holding together well. If it's not, you can add a little bit more cacao powder. If it's too thin or if it's too thick, you can add a little bit more oil or honey. And another note for this recipe, I add minimal sweetness to it, but you can add more honey and it will be sweeter, but you might just have to add a little bit more cacao powder. We're ready to form it into bars. So we're going to line a loaf pan with some parchment paper. You're going to turn it out onto the parchment paper, and you're just going to press it into a really thin layer. Make sure it's as even as possible. And then that's finished. We're going to stick it in the freezer. We're going to let it freeze for several hours until it's nice and hard, and then we can cut it up. Now my chocolate bar is nice and solid and it's ready to cut, but I actually made a mistake when I first filmed this, and I should have let it sit out on the counter for a couple minutes to kind of knock the chill off, and it's easier to cut. So I let it sit for a little bit longer, and I was able to cut it up easily into squares, and then I stored it in Ziploc bags, and I like to put parchment paper in between the layers of chocolate just so that the pieces don't stick together. And you also want to make sure you store this chocolate either in the fridge or the freezer. If you leave it at room temperature, it will melt. So I actually recommend the freezer because you can leave it for up to 3 months and it's really fresh. But if you're going to put it in the fridge, it'll last about a week. Guys, I cannot even tell you how delicious this chocolate is. It is just so rich and decadent. And the fact that it only uses honey to sweeten, it's amazing because it doesn't spike your blood sugar up like regular sugar does. And I am just absolutely in love with this. I highly recommend trying it, especially if Honey Mama's is something you've wanted to try, but it's a little bit out of your budget. Definitely make this recipe. I have the full recipe linked on my blog in the description, and it's at healthychristianhome.com. I hope you guys love this chocolate as much as I do. I will definitely be making this on repeat. Let me know in the comments if you try it, what you like about it, and also tell me any flavor variations that you might want to add. I've got several written on my blog. We could do like raspberry or cherry chunks, coconut. There's all sorts of things you could add to this to make it really yummy. And hope you guys have a wonderful day.